First, because I'm always asked to give a brief synopsis of the last chapter, I will say that they left Waybury and started heading into the wilderness on their way to the North Pass that they need to get through the mountains. They stopped for lunch where Argo did some more ranger training, and Krosk went out and caught some fish for their lunch. And that's kind of where that one ended. And as always, I like to start this chapter with a few sentences from the last one. So this is Argo, a hero story, chapter 15, by Stephen76. Just then Krosk came out of the reeds with a full sack. "I got 2 for everyone and 3 for me," he elated. They all sat down for some dressed trout stuffed with dried fruit for lunch. It was another 3 days' uneventful journeying when they finally reached the city of Hook Hill. Before they left the banks of the Lort River, they were treated to one more trout dinner, courtesy of Krosk. Since then, they had mainly dined on dried fruit and salted meat, so they were happy to ride into a civilization again. Hook Hill, Zax grinned, a booming city with plenty to offer in the way of rest, food, and supplies. Argo rode up beside him and marveled at the buildings, which were mostly made of stone rather than wood. "It also happens to be," Zax looked over at Argo, "our last stop before we enter the North Pass through the mountains." That's when Argo noticed something odd. The people of the city were ducking into doorways and around corners as if they didn't want to be seen. Ecom noticed it as well. "Are you seeing this, Zax?" he asked. "Yes," Zax raised an eyebrow. "Something is amiss." It was when they arrived in the center of town that they were stopped by the captain of the city guard. He raised his hands high, and the 10 men that flanked him drew their swords. "Be you alive or dead?" the captain loudly inquired. "Beg pardon?" Zax was curious. "A simple question," the captain continued. "Are you among the living or not?" A dead man would hardly answer, Kilrow wrote up, nor would he be honest. The captain gave his men a look, and they all sheathed their weapons. He approached the party. Zax dismounted, and the rest followed suit. "What is going on here?" Zax looked down the deserted streets. "Normally, this is a lively and friendly place to visit." "Things have not been normal for quite some time," the captain explained. "As of late, our dead do not stay dead." Bray stepped up and asked, "When did this start?" "Just over a week ago," the captain gazed down the road to the west. "Mrs. Lorna had passed away. The day after we buried her, she came back into the city and lured her husband out to the cemetery. The next day he returned and lured his son out. Every day since, a friend or a relative has been lured out there. The city lives in fear." "You have a corpse eater," Peleos spoke up. The captain looked at the ground and up at Peleos. "That's what the monks said before they boarded themselves up in the monastery. That's what we know," he scoffed. "But no one wants to do anything about it. When we try to go out there in force, a chilling fear grasps our minds, and we retreat." Krosk chuckled. "We aren't proud of our behavior," the captain scowled at him. "But we just can't seem to get out there and rid ourselves of its curse. Perhaps," Zax put his hand on the captain's shoulder, "we could strike a deal." Zax walked off to the side with the captain, with Ecom following. "What is a corpse eater?" Argo asked Peleos. "A terrible beast that feeds on the dead," Peleos said gravely, "and then assumes their form to lure more prey to its lair." "Why can't they kill it?" Argo shivered. "They hold a blackness," Peleos whispered, "that causes fear in the weak-minded." Zax and Ecom returned. "The captain has agreed to give us free room and board, as well as all the supplies we feel we will need for our journey," Zax nodded at the party. "He also said that we will obtain the service of his best man." "For what?" Snow asked. "Do you have to ask?" Catiline sighed. "We're going to take care of the corpse eater," Krosk sounded excited. "Gentlemen," the captain had walked up behind them, "and ladies, please follow me to the Grand March Inn, where I'll arrange some rooms for you and some meals." They all climbed into their saddles and followed him to what looked to be the fanciest inn in the city. They were shown to their accommodations and invited to the dining room for the biggest meal any of them had seen in quite some time. Krosk delighted in the courses of beef soup, followed by pheasant, mixed vegetables, and potatoes. The dinner was rounded off with an elderberry pie. They all ate their fill and adjourned to the porch, where they sat on the oak rocking chairs, and Zax lit up his pipe. "We should prepare ourselves," he said. "The sun will be setting in a few hours, And that is when the beast comes calling. I would like to lead the attack, Bray declared. I hold a holy power that can combat its darkness. Cross rolled his eyes. I agree, Zack stated. Bray nodded. The captain told me that we should watch for a young man who was lured out by his dead best friend last night. Zack blew out a smoke ring. He feels this young man, who is now deceased, will come tonight to entice his father. Who is his father? Argo asked. Zax blew out another puff of smoke that assumed the shape of a skull before it dissipated, and then looked at Argo. The captain, he remarked. End story.